Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover today. We're starting here with a new update that was just released for Death Stranding 2 on the beach, being reported by Gaming Bolt. Kojima Productions, along with the social media account for PlayStation Studios XDev, have announced that a new update is out for Death Stranding 2 on the beach. The update is weighing in at 925 megabytes, and it brings with it a single major bug fix for the in-game camera. According to the announcement, a bug would cause the camera and the environment to stutter when the game would be in motion. The new update, dubbed Patch 1.08, fixes the issue, along with also fixing a host of other minor issues, as well as bringing in some improvements to the game itself. So there you go. If you're somebody who is still playing Death Stranding 2 on the beach, I'm sure you already downloaded this update, but yeah, this was definitely a complaint that I've seen for some time for this game, and it's good to see that they finally got around to fixing it. Moving on from that, we have a small update from Hideo Kojima on his next PlayStation exclusive game, that being PHYSINT. This is coming from Push Square. They say Hideo Kojima could well be one of the busiest directors/designers in the industry right now. Not only is he fielding interviews and constantly posting on social media, but he's also simultaneously working on 3 games at his studio, Kojima Productions. First, there's Death Stranding 2 on the beach. He's working on updates for the recently released game. Then there is OD, a horror title that's now the main focus. Finally, there's PHYSINT, that mysterious PlayStation exclusive announced at the start of last year. In an interview with IndieWire, Kojima commented that he alone is working on PHYSINT. Asked what he's currently working on, here's his full answer. Quote, "Well, I'm checking the data of Death Stranding 2, players all over the world, what kind of weapons they're using, the routes they're taking, all this data, and I also see these small bugs here and there, so I'm deciding where to fix and what to fix. I also am starting to work with the team on OD because that's a new project, and also doing PHYSINT all by myself because that's at the conceptual stage. So I'm doing that. And also I have all these interviews every day and also promotional, photo shoots, things like that, so I don't feel like I finished the title, to be frank." End quote. So PHYSINT is technically in the works, but it's at the conceptual stage. Kojima is working on it solo, basically meaning it's many years away. Still, it's at least encouraging that he brought it up and acknowledges it here. We may not see the game for a long time, but it is in the works. All we know about PHYSINT at this point in time is that it's a, quote, next generation action espionage game, end quote, suggesting this will be some sort of spiritual successor to the Metal Gear Solid series. And yeah, just wanted to throw this out there because Kojima's once again letting us know that OD is still in development and that is his next project, but he is apparently by himself conceptualizing what PHYSINT is going to be. So make no mistake, this is a PlayStation 6 game through and through. But we're going to move on to the next topic, which is an update for Metal Gear Solid Delta, being reported once again by Push Square. MGS Delta Snake Eater will not ship with its recently revealed online Fox Hunt mode when it releases for PS5 at the end of this month. Instead, publisher Konami says it will arrive in the fall. The news was confirmed in social media posts from the company, where it said, quote, "Our new online multiplayer mode, Fox Hunt, launches fall 2025, end quote. Konami pitches the online multiplayer mode as the following: experience exciting hide-and-seek style gameplay based around central elements of camouflage and survival. And they did release a few new screenshots as well. But yeah, this is something that I don't think is that surprising, because when they first announced this, they were kind of talking about it as if it was something that could come later on. And so now it is confirmed that it's going to be releasing this fall. I would assume it's probably going to be within a month or two after the launch of MGS Delta. And I'm really curious to see what it ends up being like. But moving on to the next topic, it seems that Battlefield 6 is going to be getting some PlayStation exclusive skins and rewards. That is, if you play the beta on PS5. So for those who are unaware, the Battlefield 6 beta went public, and so anybody can download it and play it. And it says here, if you play the Battlefield 6 open beta at all on PlayStation 5, You'll earn yourself the Advanced Party character skin, and it will be available when the full game launches on October 10th. This is an exclusive bonus for those playing on PS5. If you play on PC or Xbox, you will not get this extra cosmetic. And it seems that people have also discovered there's some kind of XP bonus if you're playing on PS5. I don't know if that's going to carry over to the full game when it launches in October. But yeah, this is, I guess, maybe not too surprising. Sony did stuff like this all the time with Call of Duty. And now that Call of Duty is owned by Microsoft, it seems that they decided to maybe talk to EA and do something similar for Battlefield. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how far this extends. This does seem to also heavily insinuate that Sony may actually have the marketing rights for Battlefield 6, but there you go. It's also worth noting that Battlefield 6 is doing incredibly well based off the beta. I think it actually surpassed Call of Duty's all-time concurrent player count on Steam. So definitely going to be interesting to see how it plays out when it releases. Moving on from that, we have an interesting update for Gran Turismo 7. Gran Turismo 7 is a real celebration of the automobile, and you only need to look at its enormous list of cars as proof. Fortunately, checking out the 500 plus vehicles available to play in the game is easier than ever thanks to a recent new addition to the series' official website. The full Gran Turismo 7 car list is available to browse via the linked webpage, and it's as slick and detailed as the game itself. Each of the 539 cars and counting can be viewed here, and clicking on one brings up a gallery of images, a brief summary about the car, and statistics. You can sort the grid in various ways. It defaults to sorting by manufacturer, but you can change the country, drivetrain, and more. As well as the grid view, you can turn the page into a giant table, allowing you to compare and contrast vehicle stats more directly. This is all the information you can find in GT7 itself, but it's great to see everything made available on a dedicated page, especially one as well crafted as this. So not a major update to GT7, but still something cool that I thought was worth pointing out because it's just nice that the studio took the time to put this together and do it so well. I imagine that quite a few Gran Turismo players will actually get use out of this new webpage. But we're going to move on from that, and we're talking about the PlayStation 3 storefront. There's an update here from Push Square. They say a shaky week for the PS3's creaking PlayStation Store appears to have concluded, with full service resumed and no more error messages. At least we're not having any problems here in Europe anymore, and we're seeing similar confirmations from around the world. It's a big relief for fans who feared this may be the beginning of the end for the last-gen console service, but it's always worth remembering Sony would need to communicate any potential server shutdowns well in advance. In this case, the storefront was likely hit by a bug, which appears to have been fixed. Now, what they're referring to is the PlayStation Store on the PS3 was down for like multiple days, and anybody who still uses this or cares about it, they were basically panicking, thinking that this was it. Sony basically just shut it down. But no, that's not something they would be able to do just out of nowhere. They would have to give you a warning. But there you go, in case you were wondering. Moving on to the next topic, we have new Ghost of Yotei PS5 gameplay footage. So this new gameplay trailer kind of came out of nowhere, and I guess it makes sense because, yeah, we're approaching the launch of Ghost of Yotei, and man, this is a very intense gameplay trailer. It's showing Atsu basically attacking this camp and just going seemingly berserk, man. I mean, the weapons, I know people were a little bit concerned about there not being different stances. Sucker Punch explained that having different weapons to choose from will kind of take the place of stances. And I feel like seeing this gameplay, anybody who was worried about it, it should make you feel better about it because this is just one of the new weapons that you can use. And man, just looking at how different it is compared to Ghost of Tsushima, just how much it actually greatly changes the combat and the flow of it and the intensity of it. I mean, let's just face it, like what you're seeing in this footage is something that you just wouldn't see in Ghost of Tsushima. So yeah, I have a feeling that being able to use these different weapons is actually going to go a very long way in making Ghost of Yotei feel different and unique gameplay wise from Ghost of Tsushima. And yeah, it looks incredible. I can't wait. day one, obviously. Moving on to the next topic, though, we have another update regarding PlayStation bringing Helldivers 2 to Xbox. It seems as though this was purely PlayStation's decision. Coming from Push Square once again, PlayStation management has been credited as the ones pushing to get Helldivers 2 on the Xbox Series X and S, rather than the lead developers within Arrowhead Studios. In response to fans on Discord, the developer's CEO said any praise for making the Helldivers 2 port onto Xbox really should go to PlayStation. Quote, "It was all PlayStation. Send them your thanks. We were all in support, of course." End quote. A follow-up question was asked if they ever expected Sony to allow for an Xbox version, to which the response was, quote, "I think it's one of the coolest things they've done. They're killing it." End quote. So there you go. For anybody wondering, like, whose idea it was to do this, it seemingly was purely on Sony's side, which is a bit unexpected, right? It seems as though the developers just basically accepted that this is something that's not going to happen, but Sony was like, "Hey, you know what? Let's get it on the Xbox and see what it does," right? It will be very interesting to see how Helldivers 2 performs on Xbox, and we will cover that. But there you go. Moving on to the final two topics here. The first has to do with Sony raising its profit forecast after saying it expects less damage from Trump's tariffs. And the reason why I think this is significant is because there's been a lot of concern that Sony is going to raise the price of the PS5. Now, this doesn't mean they won't raise the price of the PS5, but it at least suggests that it's more unlikely they will raise the price of the PS5. And so I'm not going to get into all the details, but basically really all you need to know is that Sony was expecting to lose way more money due to the tariffs. They didn't, and they actually are doing very well with their profits, even with the PlayStation 5 being priced the way it is. Sony also took many different actions to try to, ensure that the tariffs would do minimal damage, I guess you could say, on the PS5 itself. And so when you combine all of these things, there's I would say, a good chance, especially considering Sony wants to keep moving PS5 units, especially going into next year with GTA 6, that there's not going to be an actual price increase. But always keep in mind that that is just speculation. They still could raise the price, but this should make you feel a little bit better. Moving on to the final topic here, Sony is seemingly going to be taking full control of Bungie very soon. Sony has reiterated its intentions to take more ownership and control of Bungie as it looks to fully integrate them into PlayStation Studios. Following a string of controversies and failures, the studio update was shared by Sony CFO Lin Tao in the Q&A section of the company's latest financial earnings call. Tao said, as transcribed by VGC, that while Bungie was allowed a very independent environment when the team was acquired, that freedom is now getting lighter as it becomes, quote, more part of PlayStation Studios and integration is proceeding, end quote. Tao clarified, quote, "So in the long term, if you can see this as an ongoing process, the direction for Bungie is to become part of PlayStation Studios," end quote. So this is not surprising even remotely, and this is actually, I think, at this point in time, the best outcome for Bungie. It's clear that the leadership there needs to be replaced with, new leadership that actually knows where to steer Bungie and how to take care of this team. But it does say here in the same earnings call, Lin Tao stated Sony expects Marathon to release by the end of this fiscal year, which finishes at the start of April 2026. Quote, "But having said that, this is not a commitment. No official announcement has been given yet," end quote. So this is basically Sony saying that they're still really trying to get Marathon out by the end of this fiscal year, but it does seem as though they are willing to delay it even further if they have to. Although, who knows? Maybe at this point it could end up actually getting canceled. It's hard to say. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.